So you're Ignace Semmelweis, a Hungarian doctor working in a hospital in Vienna, Austria in 1846. Assigned to the obstetrics ward, you help mothers give birth, and you treat them and their newborns for diseases. And in 1846, there was no disease mothers and doctors feared more than the dreaded puerperal fever. Within 3 days of giving birth, a woman with puerperal fever would experience severe abdominal pain, fever, debility, and eventually death. By the time you joined the hospital in Vienna, around 13 to 18% of all new mothers in the ward were dying from puerperal fever, more than ever before, and no one could figure out why. You see, back in the 1800s, medicine looked very different from what it is today. Doctors didn't know anything about bacteria or viruses. They believed that all illnesses were caused by bad odors and miasmas. That's right, bad odors. And that you could cure disease by letting leeches suck out your tainted blood. To make things even more confusing, the hospital you worked at also had another ward for women to give birth. This ward was for the poor people that couldn't afford a trained physician, so it was staffed by midwives, not doctors. Midwives are women who are trained to help other women give birth. So even though midwives only had a fraction of the training of doctors, their mortality rate for the fever was more than 5 times lower. So that begs the question, why were the doctors worse at their jobs compared to these untrained midwives? Desperate to discover what was killing your patients, you started carefully watching the two wards. First, you thought the difference was that the women in the midwives ward gave birth on their sides, while the doctors had women give birth on their backs. So you told the doctors to let women give birth on the sides instead, but it made no difference. Next, you noticed that whenever someone died of the fever, a priest would walk through the ward with an attendant following him who was ringing a bell. Maybe the sound of the bell was so terrifying that it scared women into getting sick. So you told the priest to ditch the bell and change his route through the ward, but that didn't help either. Eventually, you became so frustrated by the problem that you decided to take a break from your work and spend a little time abroad. You returned home to some bad news. One of your close doctor friends at the Vienna hospital had died while doing an autopsy on a woman who died from the puerperal fever. He had cut his finger on a scalpel, and a little later, he died from the same disease as the woman he had autopsied. And that's when it hit you. Puerperal fever wasn't something that only women could get, other people could get it too. And even more surprising, just like how your friend had died soon after touching organs affected by the fever and cutting his hand. So what if it was these germs, we'll call them, that was transferring the fever to others? It made complete sense. While the midwives only assisted in births, the doctors in the other ward would often carry out autopsies with their bare hands, before going right back to assisting in births without washing their hands. If you were right, then having doctors wash their hands was the key to preventing the spread of the fever. So you ordered your staff to start cleaning their hands and instruments with a chlorine solution. You didn't know chlorine was a powerful disinfectant back then. You just thought it would get rid of the smell left behind by the autopsies. And boom, within months of implementing your new hand washing requirements, the number of mothers dying from the fever in your ward dropped by around 7 times, to the same rate as the midwives ward. It was a breakthrough. You had finally figured it out. Here was a proven way to save lives, just wash your hands, and you couldn't wait to share your findings with the rest of the hospital. But unfortunately, instead of being praised for your new discovery, you were met with extreme backlash.
And when he wrote a paper explaining what he was doing, the other doctors actually came after him. And his boss, I can't remember his name, but I can find it for you, but his boss actually said something to the effect of, stop bringing all this newfangled stuff. If it wasn't good enough for our forefathers, then it's not good enough for us.
The other doctors thought you were crazy. Wash your hands? What was this woo-woo nonsense? Hand washing was for getting rid of bad smells or dirt, not health. And yet here you were saying that invisible particles on doctors' hands were killing people. It was ridiculous. So the doctors refused to wash their hands. They refused to listen to your quackery. It didn't matter that they had seen firsthand that hand washing worked. You were going against everything they believed and everything that they were taught. Who were you to have known better than every other doctor out there? And this backlash left you furious. You were so angry. You told your superiors that they were the ones that were killing the mothers. And technically you weren't wrong. But accusing them of murder to their faces didn't go over very well. And so you were eventually fired. All for trying to get people to wash their hands. The anger, the stress of losing your job, and the guilt over all the people you could have saved sent you into a complete mental breakdown in 1865. And so you were admitted to a mental asylum where you died shortly after. A cut on your hand had become infected, causing untreatable sepsis. The very same thing that killed all those women that you were trying to save. Decades later, doctors and researchers developed the germ theory of disease, that it was in fact bacteria and viruses that caused illnesses, not odors and miasmas. And it was only in death that you were celebrated as a hero. Too bad you weren't around to see it.
In 1998, it became standard of care for doctors to wash their hands. You go back before that, and there were doctors that washed their hands, and it was becoming more and more of a practice. But it was actually AIDS and the Hep C crisis that actually drove those regulations to be changed to require them to make it standard of care for doctors to wash their hands between sick patients. If the doctors had all been doing it, they wouldn't have had to go in and say, okay, this is standard of care now.
This is Nate Jones, by the way, the CEO and founder of Clear with an X. He spent his life learning about preventative medicine, and what he realized is that the backlash Ignas Semmelweis got for telling people to wash their hands wasn't just some one-off thing. In fact, this is what oftentimes happens when there's a medical advancement, including today. Whenever someone discovers a new treatment, a new way of thinking, a new advancement that could save countless of lives, the establishment fights back, the doctors and regulators that sit in their ivory towers fight back, all to maintain the status quo. But why? And what are they hiding from us today? Stay dangerous, and this is why Western medicine is so backwards. The perfect example of medical advancements getting suppressed was with this recent pandemic that we just had. During this pandemic, studies found that a simple $10 nasal spray with saline and xylitol had a positive effect on treating the virus, and that the xylitol in this nasal spray actually deactivates respiratory viruses. Nate's company Clear sold this nasal spray, but when Nate's company tried to share these scientifically backed claims to save lives, the government barred them from doing so. Why would the government do that? Well, we'll let you take a guess. That's why Nate wanted to sponsor this video to help get the word out about this. Clear's saline xylitol nasal spray is super affordable, it's the best on the market, you can find it in stores like CVS, Walgreens, most grocery stores, or by clicking the link below. We'll go over more of it later, but cleaning your nose with a nasal spray is something that we should all be doing every single day, just like how you brush your teeth every day. And I learned this firsthand recently. Someone close to me had a really nasty cough, and then I started picking up the cough as well. So all I did was use this nasal spray a few times a day, and then the cough went away. So click the link below and pick up some Clear now. This is Dr. Sarah Jo Baker, and unlike Ignas Semmelweis, she lived in a time when germ theory had already been proven. By then, most doctors knew that it was germs that caused diseases, but the types of germs and where they came from were still up for debate. Dr. Jo was one of the first female doctors to be trained in America, and in 1908, she was put in charge of New York's Bureau of Child Hygiene. Her job would be to try to improve the health of America's children. But unlike the people around her, Dr. Jo wasn't interested in treating kids after they got sick. No, she wanted to focus on preventing diseases in children. And she would do that by teaching New Yorkers basic hygiene. And in the early 1900s, her biggest challenge laid in New York's poorest and most crowded district, Hell's Kitchen. You see, even though doctors knew about germ theory, very few regular people understood that hygiene was important for health. And with so many immigrants flooding into New York from all over the world, it felt almost impossible to get the message across. By the time Dr. Jo took charge, 1,500 babies were dying every week in the summer just from diarrhea. Something had to be done. So Dr. Jo went on the offensive. First, she ensured that every new mother in the district was visited at least once by a nurse, so that they could learn some basic newborn care and hygiene. Some of the things she taught, like encouraging breastfeeding, washing your hands, regular bathing, and getting fresh air into your home, may seem obvious to us now, but to people who didn't know better, Dr. Jo's new policies were literal lifesavers, and they produced almost immediate results. 1,000 fewer babies died in Hell's Kitchen than expected, while the mortality rate everywhere else stayed the same. But Dr. Jo wasn't done yet. Over the next few years, she made it a requirement for midwives to be licensed, weeding out women who were incompetent or untrained. She set up baby health stations to distribute clean milk instead of the beer or dirty water mothers would give their children. By 1911, the infant death rate in New York had dropped by 40%. Today, Dr. Jo is seen as a hero who saved the lives of 90,000 children in New York, and possibly millions more because her policies were copied in other states and countries. But not everyone saw Dr. Jo as the hero she was, because by saving lives and preventing diseases, she was ruining the business of New York doctors who relied on sick babies to make money. Think about it, those doctors were in the business of treating disease, not preventing it, and Dr. Jo was trampling on their business. Some of them hated Dr. Jo so much that they went to the mayor to tell him to shut her down. Luckily, the numbers spoke for themselves and the mayor refused. By the time Dr. Jo left her job, all 48 states in America had a Bureau of Child Health, just like the one in New York. But other innovative doctors aren't so lucky. But why? Why is it that time and time again, doctors always seem to fight back against progress, against saving lives? It's because of one word: ego. Today, one of the main reasons people become doctors is because of the money. The average doctor today earns around $265,000 a year. But back in the days of Ignace Semmelweis, becoming a doctor was not a great financial decision. Most doctors would only make a few dollars per patient, and there wasn't always a lot of work to go around. So money was never really the issue, but ego definitely was. Back in the 1800s, a doctor's reputation was everything. If you were the head of a hospital or department, no one was supposed to be smarter or know better than you. So when new young doctors like Ignace came in, claiming to know better than doctors who had been around for decades, they had to be shut down. It didn't matter if these new discoveries were right, it only mattered that the right person discovered it. And over the years, doctors started earning a lot more money. By the 1900s, becoming a doctor meant you would live comfortably for the rest of your life. But there was still a problem. Without sick people, doctors wouldn't make anything. And that's where organizations like the American Medical Association come in. They say the AMA is there to promote the science and art of medicine and the betterment of public health. But in reality, the AMA is just like any other cartel out there. They are there to protect the interests of their members first, which means making sure that doctors keep making a lot of money, which naturally aligns with treating diseases, not preventing them.
I think it's because they're afraid of ways to keep the people healthy. Because if they're healthy, the doctors aren't going to be making money. And the organization is put in place to make sure that they continue to make money. If doctors were being trained to keep us healthy, which is what we believe they're doing, but if they were actually keeping us healthy, we'd have way too many doctors. But the fact is they're not doing a good job. They're phenomenal at, once you're sick, helping you get better from acute issues. But they really suck at keeping us healthy. We're the most obese population on the country. We're the most unhealthy. We have all kinds of healthcare issues. And if doctors were out there pushing and helping us to stay healthy, we wouldn't need as many doctors because we wouldn't be getting sick as often.
And to be clear, no one is saying that there's a secret cabal of doctors sitting in a dimly lit room, making sure that people get sicker and sicker, but that is just the natural outcome of these incentives.
My children, you said you didn't have any kids, but most people accept that their kids are going to get sick from time to time. That is not, I don't believe that that's true. They shouldn't. We aren't made to be sick. We're made to be healthy. And unless something's wrong with us or we're doing something wrong to ourselves, we shouldn't be sick. And my kids, they're your average kid, other than I make them wash their nose and I actually make them real food. They eat junk food, they eat processed food, but I would say they probably eat a quarter of what your average kid eats. My 12-year-old has been sick probably a grand total of maybe 10 days in her life. And my 10-year-old has never been sick a day in her life. She doesn't know what it's like to be sick at all.
Whoa, that's crazy. Normal kids usually get sick at least once a year, right?
No, they actually get sick 4 times a year.
Wow. And your kids have not gotten sick.
Yeah.
Well, one of them hasn't gotten sick at all.
My deathly ill child has been sick a total of 10 days. And my kids have traveled all over the world. They've been to India with me. They've been to Australia. They've been all over Latin America. They've been all over Africa. They've been all over Europe. You would think that they would get sick.
And how did he manage to not let his kids get sick at all? Part of it is the obvious stuff like less junk food and less processed foods, but the other secret is something that the medical community has been suppressing, or at least willfully ignoring: cleaning your nose. Cleaning your nose, nasal hygiene. It sounds so simple and random, but it's actually something that we should all be doing. Why? Because
breathing is the most important thing you can do.
Think about it. Every day you breathe in around 11,000 liters of air, which is about half of one of these tanker trucks. But while we're all happy to wash our hands or brush our teeth, we do nothing to protect and care for the one organ that's responsible for taking in the air we need to live.
People think it's more important to wash your hands, but actually it's more important to wash your nose, because if you're going to get a virus or a cold or anything, that's going to multiply in your nose. So squirting your nose with a clear nasal spray washes the nose. It cleans out dust, dirt, pollen, bacteria, and viruses. It actually coats the nose to make it easier to breathe through the nose. It also pulls out fluid if the nose is congested.
This is Trisha O'Heir, a dental hygienist of more than 50 years and the president of O'Heir University. And our modern lives of air conditioning and breathing in not clean air just makes it all that much worse.
Your nose is actually a really phenomenal mechanism for cleaning the air we breathe. You breathe in, you've got, I don't want to get too gross, but you got snot, you got mucus, and it traps all kinds of things, and it has compounds in it that actually kill bacteria, that kill viruses, all of these things. The pH of your mucus is actually acidic, so that it kills some of these viruses and bacteria. But a lot of the things that we're doing in our life today cause us to be chronically dehydrated. We drink a lot of coffee. We drink a lot of caffeine. Caffeine is a diuretic. It dehydrates us, okay? We're working in air-conditioned buildings or heated buildings. All of that air is dried out. All of those things cause us to have more upper respiratory issues than what we should be having. And if you get congested and you go to the doctor and say, hey, I'm all stuffed up, what does the doctor tell you to do? They tell you to use a decongestant or a nasal steroid. They put you on fluticasone, on one of these things. And all of those products are actually geared to shut down your immune system. I mean, your body creating mucus, your body creating snot is actually your immune system responding to what it thinks is a threat. If you're breathing in a virus or a bacteria, your body wants to get that out of the air before it gets to your lungs. What does it do? It makes more snot. Ear infections, sinus infections, colds, flus, COVID, allergies, asthma is a disease of the lung, but the triggers enter through your nose. All of these things start in the nose. It just makes sense that we should be discussing how to wash our nose.
And the best way to wash your nose is with something called xylitol. Xylitol is a natural sugar alcohol found in many fruits and vegetables, but when you apply it to your nose,
the xylitol sits in your snot, it blocks bacterial adhesion, it blocks viral adhesion, and it also osmotically is going to pull moisture out of the tissue, which is going to reduce inflammation and open the airway. The other thing it's going to do is facilitate the cilia moving the mucus away from your nose.
And yet no one talks about it. Why? Because as we mentioned, doctors aren't in the business of preventing disease, they're in the business of treating disease. That's where their head is at. So naturally, they're not going to pay attention to stuff like this. That's why after realizing all of this, Nate's dad, Dr. Lon Jones, created a xylitol nasal spray to treat his patients. The results were so incredible that in the year 2000, Nate created Clear to make the same xylitol spray available to everyone.
I recommend our nasal spray because I think it's the best one on the market. You can find it at CVS, you can find it at Walgreens, most of your grocery stores, your pharmacies, your natural retailers. But find a nasal spray that has xylitol in it, and you just spray it up your nose. When you brush your teeth in the morning, wash your nose. It's a hygiene tool, okay? It's not a drug, it's not a pharmaceutical. It's a hygiene tool to help. I mean, the same way we brush our teeth, the same way we use a mouthwash, the same way we take a shower, hopefully, the same way we wash our hands. All we're doing is we're actually just helping our body. We're washing our nose, cleaning contaminants, debris, all that stuff out of our nose.
After Nate explained it to me like this, I started washing my nose with Clear every day as well. I do it in the morning when I brush my teeth, and it's actually way easier than brushing your teeth. You just pump the spray in each nostril and you're done. What's great about Clear is that it's super affordable, and like Nate mentioned, you can find it everywhere, so I highly recommend you guys pick some up. We'll link it below, so scroll down and click the link below to pick up some now.